The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. We're going to give it a few minutes for everybody to join, and then we'll get started. All right, we're going to go ahead and begin. A couple of quick housekeeping items. Can I get somebody to confirm that they can hear me all right and see our screen? All right, great, thanks. All right, everybody, thanks for joining us today. My name is Jason Hubbard. I'm VP of Marketing for Prodoscore. We have with us Denise Hazim, who's from Biwo. Biwo is an early customer as well as partner of Prodoscore. And so we have Denise on here to help talk about how to build the right tech stack for your remote workforce. So Biwo is a company that specializes in moving companies to the cloud. And that's going to be an integral piece of the discussion around technology that we'll be having on this. So Denise, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Jason. Thanks, everyone. I think one of the main reasons that Prodoscore asked me to speak today is because what I'm going to talk about are issues that we faced as an organization, and we sort of figured out how we need to organize ourselves in order to really move with technology. And, technology is changing every day. And as a business leader, you have to be able to adopt and change your organization with technology. There's now more requests for people to work from home, to work remotely, to work, from different locations. And, fortunately, technology has evolved in a way to allow us to let our employees do that. But one of the hardest things is to really find those tools that will allow you insight into being able to manage your employees wherever they are, but also building trust between yourself and the employee so that you know that they're doing their job and they know that you can see that they're doing their job. So I have a deck that I want to present before we jump into the demo. And Prodoscore is really one of the tools that help us to unify our technologies and tools that we use and allow us to let our employees work from home. You'll see here, there have been quite a few studies recently that talk about, how do you let your employees work from home, and is there a benefit to letting your employees from home? And there's a group called the C-Trip that actually performed a study, and it had a group of 250 people. They let half of them work from home and half of them would come to the office. And many of the people that did volunteer for the study were, a bit younger in age, right? And what they found is that they were able to save money per employee. I'm sure that came in the form of office space, overhead, etc. But that the employees that worked from home were 13.5% more efficient than those that worked in the office. But they also found that the ones that worked from home were 9% more engaged than their office counterparts, right? So seeing that the employees were maybe more focused, the ones that were working from home, because they didn't have the distraction of socializing with other employees and were probably more focused that, hey, I'm sitting here, I'm doing my job. There is less trips to the water dispenser, a coffee machine, smoke breaks, etc. And seems that the productivity improved when employees work from home. There's actually another customer, Prodoscore, that ran a Prodoscore trial on their employees, and they had a large field sales organization. And they found that they improved productivity by 20% by allowing their employees to work from home. They did find that some employees work better in the office and some employees actually work better at home because less distractions. So overall, they did see a productivity increase when they installed Prodoscore and had the insight. And there's many more things that Prodoscore does help with. For my organization, we have a remote sales team that's all over the United States. And, one of our biggest issues was understanding what they were doing all day and how can we improve those functions, right? So, maybe they were spending too much time on a specific function. Could we take that away, move it to a different department, modify it and allow them to focus on the tasks that were actually leading to more sales, more engagement with customers, etc. So it helped our organization improve productivity by 23%, and this is over about 6-month time frame. So it definitely made a big difference for us and helped give us insight into what's going on. As you move through this slide deck, this is sort of more of the conclusion, right, of what happens when you install a tool like Prodoscore. Like I said, employees took shorter breaks, had fewer sick days, took less time off because they had that lax and able to work from home, work from the office, work from a coffee shop. It didn't really matter. Attrition rates were less, right? They didn't have a long drive to the office. Maybe some employees work better in a quiet environment at the house with less distractions. And then they reported being happier, right? The ones that were able to work from home. So higher job satisfaction. Maybe it's because they didn't have to, sit in their car for long periods of time and through traffic to get to the office. I live in California, and, traffic and driving is a big problem, right? Having to spend that much time in a car where you could be productive, in front of a computer, or, spending maybe that extra time with your family instead of having to go home and, do the work that you could have finished instead of sitting in the car. So overall, employees were happier when they were allowed to work from home, which is really important and helps improve attrition rates within organizations. Some employees that did come back to the office after the study was completed were worried about being acknowledged, right? So when you are working from home, there is a sense that, they can't see me, they don't know how well I'm working. But in reality, when you use a tool like Prodoscore and management is looking at the different productivity features, you can see which employees are working more efficiently, performing more tasks, and therefore hitting their goals, right? So with a tool like Prodoscore, you should be confident that your manager or whomever is in charge will be able to see, how hard you're working. And I'm able to see that with my employees and able to reward them in doing so. Prodoscore is a tool to effectively manage your remote work team, right? It gives you daily visibility into what's going on. And I should say that Prodoscore is built on Google's cloud platform and uses machine learning. Now, that's sort of a term that's coming up more and more in news headlines more recently. And how do we use machine learning to help our business? Well, Prodoscore does use machine learning, right, to understand activity patterns within the organization and what's actually leading to results. So this is a way where you can take all of this data, big data that exists in your system, and using a tool like Prodoscore, which uses machine learning, to understand that data and give you actionable analytics, right? Allowing your employees to work from anywhere, but also seeing where are the actions that they can improve, looking for black holes in the organization and how to either eliminate them or improve the process, and that's really beneficial to any organization. I want to jump into the demo because I think once you see Prodoscore, it's more understandable how the tool works and how it can apply to your organization. And can everyone see my screen? I take it that's a yes. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, fantastic. So this is the Prodoscore dashboard. So what happens with Prodoscore is you can set up different alerts, right? So I have an alert. I get this report every Monday. I get a little email that says, hey, don't forget to log into Prodoscore. Here's a summary of some of the productivity numbers for your employees. Make sure to look in further. There's also alerts that can be set up where an employee's productivity drops beneath a certain level. That way you're getting alerted to see, what's going on with this employee, and I'll show you how that works. Here you can see you have a date range that you can look at. We're looking at a 1-week view. And you'll see here that there's an organizational score. Now, for me, I like Prodoscore because it's sort of different than other productivity tools because it has a score associated with it, right? That's easy to understand. So here you'll see that employees that are above 70 are above average, within 30 to 70 are average, and then anything below 30 is below average. So for me, understanding that chart, 0 to 100, 70 above 70 being, a C, B employee, which is fairly good. And then understanding the different levels helps me, at a glance, understand what's going on in the organization. And then I do like that it offers a week over week overview, right? So I can see if productivity is increasing or decreasing, or if there are any drastic changes in productivity. Here you'll see the organizational chart, and you can see the dark color is this week, and the lighter color is last week, right? So I can see, we're at about the same pace as last week, slightly lower, but, continuing to move in the same direction, which is fine, right? And that's what I want to see. I want to see consistency and possibly improvement. As I scroll down the page, here's a section that's called correlations, and sort of goes into, the topics within the organization, what people are talking about, and we'll dive into that in just a few minutes. Down here, you get a little glimpse of the different employees and the scores, and then here you'll see the different bars correlating to the different ranges on the numbers chart. On the left, again, it's really easy navigation. On the left here, you'll see that there's a managers tab that lists all the managers. There's an employees tab that lists all the different groups within the organization. This is the correlations tab, which is the machine learning piece. And then there's your settings tab and your legend down here. So really easy, not complicated, and really, anyone can use it. If you click on the managers tab, you'll see here that, gives you, again, I'm looking at a week overview. Saturday and Sunday are grayed out. But if I click on any of these or scroll over them, you'll see that that's a different manager and that's his group score. So if I click there, you'll see here's the manager who he reports to. Here's his score, his subordinate score. And if I scroll down, each one of these bars correlates to one of the different employees. So here are the different employees. Here are the different scores, and you can see, what's going on in the organization or for this group. If I go to the employees tab, I click here. Again, here are the different groups within the organization. So if you just want to look at the sales team, you can do that, or the admin team, you can do that as well. But I like clicking on employees because I can see every employee. I can see their role. I can see the manager name, their score, and if there are any drastic changes in performance, any increases or decreases, right? So I am an admin, and so that's why I can see all of this. If you're not an admin and manager, you would see just your group that you manage. If we click here, here's an employee that I'm looking at. You can see who he reports to, his score, increases or decreases, and here's his 1 week view, right? And again, this is the, current 7 days, and this is the previous 7 days. So if I'm looking at last Friday, I can see his score is an 83. The previous Friday was an 80. So he's pretty consistent. Looks like he works, pretty hard on Fridays. If I click on the bar, it'll actually show me what activities went into the calculation of that score, right? So again, this is a Google-based product. So the minimum requirement is that you do have to be on G Suite. So here you'll see the G Suite activities. Here's Google Drive. calendar, email, chat, and then you'll see here's a conference call tie-in where you can actually see actual minutes spent on conference calls, CRM tasks and CRM events, opportunities, etc., and then the phone system. Now, if you click on any of these, you can actually see the different phone calls that were made, when they were made, the duration of the call, and so on. Same thing for conference call. If I click on it, I can see the different conference calls. You can get some of the sentiment analysis in the conference calls as well. What were people talking about? And then in the emails, same thing. You can see the different emails that were sent, when they were sent. And then there's a feature where you can actually see, part of the email or what was stated in the email. And this is something that can be turned on or turned off, depending on, what you want. But I think one of the cool things is looking at, this chart that's in the middle of the page. And what it looks at is activity throughout the day, right? You can see the different valleys and peaks of activity, and you can see if the employee was active all day. So it looks like this employee started maybe about 8 o'clock, 8:15, and they started plugging away, dropped a little bit, then picked back up. Looks like he did a few emails later on in the day, right? But if this is my star employee, I can see when he does his specific tasks, right? I can see when his calls from. Looks like he has a lot of calendar events down here. When does he send his emails? When is he making his phone calls? So I can take that information and then use that to help other people within his category, right? So if it's a salesperson, I can say, hey, Bill, maybe make your phone calls after 2 p.m. You may have more success there instead of doing them at 8 a.m., right? Looking at his activities, he sent 20 emails. He had, hour and a half of conference calls, hour of phone time, his different CRM events, etc. So I can use those sort of as a measurement, right, in helping to onboard employees or helping other employees get up to this level. So sometimes it's hard to understand what tasks your star employees are doing all day without standing over their shoulder. This helps me get insight into what he does that leads to his success, right? He's sending 20 emails. He has an hour of phone time, so on and so forth. So getting that understanding of information is very useful for me. But it also lets me see if an employee's activity is dropping, right, and why is it dropping. Let's look at another employee. You can see here, this employee, look at his Friday. The previous Friday he had a 73. Past Friday he had a 40, right? What happened here? He had 3 emails sent, 0 phone time, only 30 minutes. Look at his day. Looks like he started working at 10:30 and then stopped working at 12:30. He did no other activities. So this is something where I would say, either talk to his manager or talk to him and go, hey, what happened here? Why was there no activity on Friday? Was he sick? Did he have, check out of the office? What happened? Or, is this employee, if this is something that's continuous where I can see that his productivity is dropping, is that employee leaving? Right? A lot of times when an employee is going to leave, their productivity does drop off, right? They don't care as much because they probably have a job secured somewhere else, or they're interviewing, at other companies. So you can see that they're less interested in the work and hitting their goals and more interested in finding a different place to go. And at that point, if it's an employee that may be very important to your organization, you can address it and say, hey, sorry your productivity dropped, what's going on, and whether it's in the form of a raise or a promotion or whatever it is to keep that employee, you may want to do that instead of losing that employee and then having to invest another 6 to 9 months to find a replacement and train, etc. So it's a great retention tool. Looking at activities, keeping your star players happy, keeping them engaged, and then at the same time, looking at your other employees and helping them increase their productivity by doing the actions that are going to lead to better results. if we see here, the correlations tab exists within the employee profile, but also here for the entire organization. And if we click on correlations, this is going to pick up different topics that Joseph talks about, right? Here it's going to look at different contacts outside the domain that he communicates with during this 7-day period. So here you can see some of the different topics, Google, Vonage, etc. Here's the different forms of communication that's related to that topic, and then here's different contacts outside the domain and how much he's been communicating with them. But I really like the overall organizational one because it shows me how many people within the organization are communicating about a certain topic, right? So understanding, why is that topic coming up most often, or is there maybe a campaign that we're running that I want them to talk about that they're not talking about? So, really looking at, what's going on in the organization, and then seeing how much communication is happening with customers that are outside of the domain, right? So sometimes we don't really understand how much we're communicating with specific customers, and then what is the value of that customer, right? So, sometimes we'll see that, for example, let's click on this one. You can see that, let's say this is a $50 customer who's purchasing something for $50, right? And then you can see here that there's 2 people, possibly 3 people that are communicating with this customer, right? Okay, that's fine, not a problem. But let's try and find somebody else. Let's look at this one. We can see how many people are communicating with this customer. So here you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, possibly 7 people are communicating with this one customer. Now, if this customer had a value of $50 and I had over 6 employees communicating with that one customer, then there's a problem there, right? Prodoscore has shown me how much people time is invested into this one customer that's a $50 customer. So there is either a problem on my end where it's taking too many people to service a customer, or this customer is maybe one of those squeaky wheels that constantly needs help and attention. And, for an organization like ours, having 6 people put that much time and effort into a $50 customer, is just not a smart business move for us. And so what would we do at that point? You would have to fire the customer. I know that's a term that a lot of people, are scared of saying. But, in the end, this customer is costing the organization money, right? And if it's one that may not be growing, is not a good investment, this may be sometimes a decision that you would have to make. Say, you know what, Mr. Customer, unfortunately, we're not able to help you with that. You can purchase support, or you can go to this website to get free support. And in a sense, you're firing the customer. You're telling him that you're no longer going to service him for free. He's got to find, another option or pay for it. And that's, the reality of running a business. You have to make these business decisions and invest people's time wisely into actions that are going to lead to more results. And then this gives me insight into that as well by looking at, what topics people are talking about. If we click there, we can see that, let's just say, we're selling Google. We do sell Google. So I want to see, how many people in the organization or how many of my salespeople are actually talking about Google and their sales, right? Are they bringing it up? Are they communicating about different features, etc.? And here you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, possibly 5, which is great, right? I want to see that much communication. And on this section over here, I can see in what form that communication is happening, right? So email, chat, calendar, drive, CRM, conference calls, leads, etc. So this is great, right, for my organization. If there was maybe a campaign I was running called Purple Ice Cream, right, I would want everyone talking about purple ice cream. I want to see a lot of people in this category. And if I don't see that, that means that people are not talking about that, right? Again, the point of Prodoscore is helping give you insight into what's going on in the organization because you have these remote employees, or because you don't want to stand over the employee's shoulder all day. You want to give them the leniency and trust that they're working, they're talking about the right things, that they're performing, and they know that you can see that. And in a way, really helping force the adoption of these tools. I think one of the hardest things is, to get your employees to use these tools that we're investing in, like, G Suite, like VoIP, like CRM, and having them use the CRM the right way, right? Because the more information you put in there, the more healthy the account information is, and being able to help that customer. How many phone calls are made. You can't track that if they're just using their own personal phone call. You want them to use the mobile app that's tied into a VoIP based phone system, right? Being able to see that activity, but also how much activity, how many times did you call this customer, and therefore helping improve your internal processes. Again, I personally invest a lot into these products. I know a lot of people do, especially tools like Salesforce, Zoho, Sugar CRM. Those are very expensive CRM tools, but if used, they can lead to better organizational decisions and results. Right? Same thing with phone systems like Cisco, BroadSoft, Vonage. They're all great tools that you can use to help improve and give insight into what's happening, how many phone calls are being made, how much time are spent on phone calls, how can we improve this process. So again, Prodoscore sort of opened my eyes as to what's going on in the organization without me having to tell employees, oh, can you log your phone calls? Oh, can you, log your activities for the day? I would spend, hours logging into CRM and having to pull activity logs to see, how many opportunities they touched, et cetera. And that's a waste of my time. So I needed more efficiency, and Prodoscore allowed for that. That's really it.
Great, thanks, Denise. So we've got a little while for any questions that anybody might have. While we wait for that, Denise, can you talk about some of your experiences at Bilo with Prodoscore? So in particular, with regards to being able to proactively coach and be able to get out in front of problems with your employees.
Yeah, sometimes employees, especially ones that are remote or working spread out all over the U.S. One thing was I needed my employees to reach out to the customers more. I needed them to be on the phones, and Prodoscore gave me insight into that, because I would tell them, hey, make sure you're calling customers, make sure you're following up on leads, opportunities, etc. And for me, without a tool like Prodoscore, I didn't know what was happening. And at the time, I did look at Prodoscore and saw that some employees were making 4 phone calls a day, some were making 6, and that was very concerning for us, because we're a service-based organization, and interaction with customers is very important. So coaching my employees, my sales team, to go, hey guys, you need to be on the phones. Why aren't you on the phones? What's the problem? What don't you understand, etc. So being able to coach their actions to helping them close more deals, lead more results. Because I know as a leader, the more interaction you have with customers, the more you're talking with them, the more you're able to guide them and consult and lead them to the best, results in sales, essentially, right? We're a sales-based organization. We need to sell. And you can't sell if you're not on the phone with the customer, right? Emails only gets you so far. You have to be able to talk to a customer face-to-face. But it also helped me, we had a time where we had a lot of employees that were, logging overtime. And, I, for example, one employee, I had looked at Prodoscore, and, he had logged like 3 hours of overtime. And then when I looked at his chart, so let's just take one employee, for example, here. Yeah, I looked at his chart, and in the middle of the day, there was like, a 3-hour gap. And then he went home, and it looks like, he had worked from home. And I said, hey, what happened here? You logged 3 hours of overtime, but in the middle of the day, it looks like you stopped working for 3 hours. And he said, oh, yeah, I had to go, run an errand and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, well, that's fine. It looks like you made up those 3 hours at home, but that's not overtime. That's you working 8 hours, which you're supposed to do. So the only time you get overtime is if you're working above 8 hours. So, able to use this for, things that sometimes we have to face, especially if you're part of a larger organization. Controlling overtime is one of those things, right? Or maybe you want your employees to do overtime. So you want to see that they're working and how many hours they're working a day. And this will show you, what their activities look like. So it's a really a multi-pronged tool, right, with a lot of different ways to use it.
And obviously, Vilo, you're a reseller of not only Prodoscore, but other cloud applications like CRM and VoIP. Has Prodoscore helped with customers of Vilo as far as being able to ensure adoption of those platforms that they're doing? Because, of course, the single biggest problem or reason for a failed deployment of a cloud application is the challenge of getting people to adopt the new platform.
Exactly. And our core product is G Suite, right? So we want customers not only to move to G Suite, but to actually use it. And showing them Prodoscore as a tool that can help them really enforce adoption, which I know that sort of is a strong word, right? Force adoption, but essentially it's telling your employees, hey, here are the tools, here are the different features of the tools. You should be using this, right? So, for example, Drive. Google's Drive has a lot of features and capabilities, similar to Microsoft's Office. And you want your employees to be using Drive. Number one, it's a more collaborating tool, or different people can collaborate real time on a document, whereas with an Office document, you have to download it, edit it, email it, and then wait for their version to come back, where, Drive is real time. And so, getting your employees to move away from those old legacy tools and using these tools that as a leader are going to bring more collaboration, more adoption, better employee communication internally as well as externally with customers.
Right. And inevitably, we always get the question of, when you're doing a deployment of Prodoscore, how do you answer concerns of the employees that you've got this amount of visibility into their days?
So, for me, I really didn't have too much of a problem with employees, telling employees, hey, listen, there's a tool we're using, here's what it's looking at, et cetera, et cetera. Initially, maybe they were like, oh, great, right? But the employees that are working are not going to have a problem with this tool because they're working, they're confident that they're working, they're doing their job, right? This is a coaching tool, really, to see what activities lead to better results. It's not to go, oh, Joey stopped working between 11, 45 and 12 o'clock. What was he doing for those 10 minutes? That's not the purpose of this tool. This tool is a coaching tool. It's a learning tool to help you understand how to help your employees, how to coach them, and how to have confidence. So I can say, hey, Bill, that's fine. You can work from home 5 days a week. We have Prodoscore, and Bill knows that, there's Prodoscore running, and, if my boss is trusting me to work from home, I need to make sure that I am working, right? And if they're not working, guess what? You're paying for an employee that's not working. Maybe you shouldn't have that employee, right? And maybe it's time to let that employee go their separate ways, because if they're not working and you're paying them to work, this is going to show you that. So it's going to weed out the employees that should not be there and then give more confidence to the ones that are hardworking. And that's, really what's happening. And, maybe you have a sales guy that, works, 3 hours a day and he, surpasses his goals. Maybe you need to increase his goals, or maybe you need to know what he's saying on those 3 hours that he's working on those phone calls, what he's doing, that's leading to these fantastic results, right? You don't know that, Joe works 3 hours a day. You just know that Joe hits his results. Well, what's he saying? And being able to go, hey, Joe, let's sit and talk. What are you saying? So that you can take that information and help some of the other employees, right? So maybe his pitch is just fantastic, and you can take that pitch and help some of the other players who are having maybe a more difficult time. So, for me, Prodoscore is like, it's like medicine, right? Initially, sometimes it doesn't taste good, but at the end of the day, it's going to make you better. And that's really what Prodoscore did for our organization and for our customers.
Right, and I think it's important to point out as well, with all of these cloud applications, the data is already there. You can go into your G Suite admin panel and actually look at all of this information. You can go into your CRM and see who's been updating records and what their activity has been. You can go into your VoIP management platform, be able to see calls that people are making, stuff like that. So all of this data is already there. It's already available to your admins. Prodoscore just makes it easier to be able to actually look at it and be able to see what's going on across your team and across all those different platforms, and to pull all of that information together.
Yeah, it's not creating any data. It's just making it more organized and easy for me to understand instead of wasting my time, logging into all of these different tools to look at activity.
Great. All right, well, one last opportunity for anybody to ask any questions. Otherwise, we'll give you a little bit of your time back today. All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. Thank you, Denise.
Thanks.
And everybody has a good rest of the day.